Alors, bonsoir tout le monde, bienvenue à cette...
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this regular council meeting of September 12th. It seems to me that it's been quite a while since we've been here together. In the summer, of course, the meetings are only once a month, but I know we're going to pay for it over the next few months. That goes without saying. So, in order to open the meeting, dear colleagues, let's have the serenity to accept the things we cannot change, the courage to change the things we can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Without further ado, I'd just like to say a few words here this evening. I just want to take this opportunity to talk about the first Municipalities Week here in New Brunswick. This is going to be held from September 19th to the 25th, and that thematic week will be an opportunity to take advantage of in order to put forward and talk about all of these services that are offered to citizens and to talk about the dedication of our employees and all the staff who work every day for the population. We can be proud of all of our employees who offer quality services day after day and who meet the needs of our citizens while still making sure that taxpayers' money is spent responsibly and efficiently. Municipalities Week is also a great time to thank our volunteers who work within different community organizations and participate in the well-being of the community by offering dynamic community living through their involvement in different sports, cultural, and community activities. Over the next few days, we will be launching a contest that will allow one of our young residents here in Dieppe from 12 to 15 years of age to become mayor for a day and to be able to experience how the city council works firsthand. You will also be able to see in our social media and other publications, you'll see information on the work that is done by some of our municipal staff in this transition period, transition to the new municipal government's model. Our staff members are going to be asked to play a ever greater role in the future of the province, and we want to continue to offer quality services to all of our residents here. That theme week will also be an opportunity for us to reflect upon the future of New Brunswick. In closing, I'd like to take this opportunity as well to point out all of the work done by my colleagues here at Council, your dedication and uh, and your dedication helps to work on all of the issues that affect our community, and this is greatly appreciated. So on that, I'd like to wish you a great Municipalities Week from September 19th to the 25th next week. So without further ado, I'd like to open the meeting and call to order. We have quorum. I think everybody is present. Have there been any conflicts of interest declared? No, nobody has declared a conflict of interest. So we will move on to the adoption of the agenda. Would somebody like to move the agenda? Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Rideau on the question.
OK, alors évidemment, on est... Oh, c'est vrai. Alors, au 10.5.
10.5.1, we're going to withdraw this from the agenda. Would somebody like to move the removal of 10.5.1? Moved by Councillor Godet, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. No questions. All those in favor? signify that by saying aye, contrary nay. So 10.5.1, sorry, has been removed from the agenda. We are now moving on to presentations, inquiries, and petitions. Do we have any specific requests? Nothing has come in. So we will move on then to inquiries by council members of the Kodiak Regional RCMP. We have Inspector Chantal Farah with us this evening. So we'll start with your comments. First, we'll hear your comments before we give the floor to councillors. Good evening and welcome here. Thank you. Good evening, councillors, your worship, people in the room. I just wanted to give you a few updates. School is back in, children are back at school in September. So we have prepared our operational plans in the school and we're just wrapping up the details of these plans, and we're going through lockdown drills with the youth. So by the end of September, we want to have gone through all of that. All of the plans must be in place, and we have to have lockdown drills done in all of the schools in Dieppe, Moncton, and Riverview. Secondly, I wanted to mention that I'm launching a pilot project. I borrowed 3 patrollers to increase our community service because we've heard people in the community loud and clearly that we have had people tell us that it was important for us to have a strong presence, and that starts with the youth. So we have 6 community police officers. I have 1 assigned to each of the high schools. Here, we're going to have Constable André Liette in Mathieu Martin. So the children will have one face, one name that they will be able to establish a relationship with. And this will allow us to continue on with different initiatives in the community. So all of our patrols downtown Moncton, Riverview, and Dieppe, we're going to continue that because we have to make sure that we stay on top of all of the issues that have been identified. My third point, I just wanted to mention that over the last few weeks, we've had a few raids. A major raid was done in the Moncton area where we seized more than a kilo of crystal meth, including and some cocaine, some firearms, and some stolen goods. And it's important for me to talk about the good work that is done. And this has a major impact on the safety and security of our community. So I'd like to thank people who have the courage to report those who have these negative behaviors in the community, because we need the ears and the eyes on the ground in order to be able to arrest these people. So that was a great raid. And also over the last few weeks, we arrested 3 people who were free but illegally. These were people who were under federal responsibilities who didn't who were unlawfully at large. And so we arrested 3 of them, and that's important to mention as well, because these people have to follow their condition of their freedom, of their probation, in order to achieve the security. And I'd like to thank the Municipality of Dieppe and all the partners for the great collaboration that we received at the YQM Festival. For the RCMP point of view, the event was very well held. I mean, there's always a few hiccups, but we adjusted as we went along and everything was good. And I don't know if you noticed, but we had a number of RCMP patrols on bicycles. And we had about a half a dozen of them who were to make sure that they were patrolling in the crowds and people, as people were coming into and leaving the concert site. So those were my updates, Your Worship. Thank you, and we really appreciate the level of detail that you have brought us here this evening compared to your predecessors. Well, I appreciate that too. Thank you. So before we go on to inquiries by council members, there was somebody in the room here, I believe, who had a question for council later. Okay, so we move on to
Question répondue par le
councillors'
conseiller, M.
questions.
Thibodeau.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you,
Félicitations
Your Worship.
pour
Congratulations, first of
avoir
all,
que les policiers
for
dans les
having
écoles
added
et les
police
supports.
officers
Ça a
in the
été
schools.
ce
I
projet
was
de
really
rénovation
disappointed
qui a
when
été
that
lancé.
whole project was
Deuxième point,
abandoned a few years
on
ago.
entendait toujours, c'est
And
la
then
vitesse.
the second
Euh,
point, of
Depuis
course, that we keep
rapport
hearing
sur
about is
qu'on
speed,
a
excessive
refait le
speed.
chemin Bourg,
Ever since we've
ça devient une piste de course.
redone Bourke Road, it's become a drag strip. And so I think maybe that road should be patrolled. You can't park there and stay there all the time, of course, and I think citizens understand that. But
qu'on soit aux aguets.
I think we
Je
have to
me
be very
permets
careful.
justement
Yes,
de
I do. I'll
vérifier
take
de trafic tactique
note of that
s'il y a
because
des
I'm going to
problèmes.
look at the
Je
technical
suis aussi
traffic unit that
ministère,
are
on
going to
a
be in the
discuté
area. So I will
par le
point out
passé
that road
avec
to
votre
them.
voiture qui vont faire du
And
trafic.
we will control the traffic in that area.
Merci, Madame Turgeon-Roy.
Merci beaucoup,
Councillor
Monsieur le maire.
Turgeon-Roy. Thank you, Your Worship.
Merci et merci pour toutes les
Thank you.
précisions, les mises
And
à jour
thank you for all of the
concernant
details and the updates
qu'est-ce que vous avez fait depuis notre
and
dernière
for everything
rencontre
that you've
cet
done since our
après-midi.
last
Je
meeting.
voulais
It's
juste
much
porter
appreciated.
attention sur
And I'd just like to
l'agenda aujourd'hui suite à notre
point out
dernière
that
conversation qui avait
after our
lieu
last conversation
lors d'une intervention de
that
conseil
we
municipal,
had
on
at
avait
a
parlé
council
de ce
meeting,
qu'on
we had
pouvait
talked
faire
about what
éventuellement
we
pour les
could
bruits,
do
puis on avait
to
besoin de vous donner
because
des outils, tout
in
ça. Donc, je voulais
case
juste
of
faire votre
excessive
connaissance
noise,
pour
and we
faire
were talking about
des
the tools.
modifications
And I just
puis
wanted to
avoir
mention that
du
we're going
suivi
to
par
recommend a
suite à notre
amendment to
discussion
the Motor
d'aujourd'hui.
Vehicle
Est-ce que
Act
c'est
here
possible?
this evening. It's on the agenda. I just wanted to mention that to you.
Merci.
Thank you.
Monsieur Godet.
Councillor
Merci,
Godet.
Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Je voulais juste mentionner, j'ai eu une
I-
couple d'appels pour des
I
plaintes
received a couple
sur
of
la rue
calls
Melançon
and
et Fox
complaints
Creek
about Melançon and Fox Creek roads.
Il y avait des burn-out, je ne sais pas ce que c'est le mot en français.
There were some burnouts.
Puis j'ai eu plusieurs personnes qui m'ont appelé pour ça.
A number of people
Ça se
called
déroule de
me
7 à 8 heures.
about that, and it
Des
was
fois,
between
c'est
7 and 8
on
p.m.
a eu comme
on
en
some
parle de ça. Je sais pas
evenings,
ce qu'on pourra
and
faire.
I think it
J'ai
happened
aussi écrit
several
par
times.
mail et à
So
courriel pour
I
vous appeler.
told
C'est
them
ça, je sais pas si
to
vous
send you an
avez
email. I
appelé
don't know
sur
if you,
leur
or call
téléphone.
you. I don't know if you
Pas
received
d'inconvénient.
any calls about that.
Aux aguets avec tous les appels
I'm
qu'il y en a,
not
mais si
sure.
vous
I'm
avez
not familiar with all of the
25, vous nous appelez tout de suite, 857 2400.
calls that come in, but they can
Si vous
call
pouvez me donner la
us,
plaque,
and if they
puis
can give us a
l'approbation
license
aussi, ça
plate
se passe
number
sur
and the
plaque, ça c'est important
location,
ça, parce que là après ça, même s'ils sont partis, nous autres on peut se présenter à
because
l'office
even
puis les
if we
parler
have the
puis
license
déposer
plate,
des
even
plaintes.
if they're not at that
Mais il devrait
location
être
anymore, at
d'accord,
least we
il
can
devrait
find
vous
the
appeler.
owner. But
Ça serait fait.
they shouldn't
On peut
wait.
s'en dépêcher des policiers par les
They shouldn't wait. They should call us immediately. Yes, there are a number of citizens, and I told them to call you or email you. So, well, generally speaking, 857-4000. That's the number. But that's the number to call if it's a non-emergency. But that's what's important. If there's a crime being committed, it's important to report it immediately with as much detail as possible. If you can give us a plate number, a description of the vehicle, that's very helpful. Yeah, I'll add that to the list. Thank you.
Merci, Madame Le Boutier.
Oui, merci, Monsieur le maire.
Councillor Le Boutier, thank you.
Peut-être que vous êtes déjà au courant
Perhaps
aussi,
you're
mais
already
il y a
aware
une
of this,
situation
but I'd just like to talk to you about a situation that arose,
qui semble savoir au moins améliorer.
a situation that has improved, though.
D'un itinérant qui est
It's a homeless person,
et puis il y a eu des rassemblements
and
de jeunes.
there were
On fait ça dans un terrain
there were some youth who got together on a private property that was vacant, a private but vacant property. This happened during the day. There was a lot of noise. It went on into the night. And to top it off, it was a big party all weekend long. So there was a situation in which the residents had a lot of trouble sleeping because of the noise. They were even bullied. The police came several times, and I don't think anybody here this evening was there, but maybe people were afraid or too afraid of being reprimanded to come here. But what the questions asked me were, they want to know their role, they want to know their rights. So you, as a police officer, what is your role in that kind of situation? Excuse me, are you talked about homeless or you're a group of youth? Well, it's one situation, but it was both. There was a young homeless person, and then others started coming together on this property that is private property but
Ils
vacant.
font du
And
butin, puis ils
and
consomment
they
de
make
l'alcool.
noise and they drink and there's alcohol on the premises.
Ils ont le
Yes.
droit de consommer en
So
lieu public, ce qui
you're
fait
not allowed to
les
consume
gens
alcohol
souvent ça
in
présentement
public. So if that
difficile.
happens, you
Ça
can
prend du courage,
tell
ça
them. And
prend
I
des
know it
fois
takes
parler.
courage.
Mais
It's
nous
not
autres,
always easy,
ce qu'on peut faire, c'est
but
qu'on va aller là, on va demander
we're
c'est
going to
combien de
go
temps
there. We're going
faire.
to ask
Puis
who's
si
the
c'est
owner of
électrogène,
the
il y en a d'autres
property, and
associés
if
de
it's there's
propriétaires
some
qui peuvent
youth
vous
there
assister aussi.
and nobody
C'est
owns
ça.
that
Puis
land,
nous autres, on va
nobody
aller voir,
is
puis
the
on fait
owner, then
toujours des
we'll ask them, what are you doing
ça,
here?
c'est
And
toujours
we
des
always try to
idées,
educate
les
them.
gens
That's
qui
the
disent, ah,
objective.
puis
We
ça,
try
c'est
to give them
normal, c'est
education.
monsieur,
You
madame,
know,
qui en
we
avait
have to
besoin.
tell them, listen,
Quelle
this is
population
uncomfortable
pourrait
for the
avoir au,
people who live
au
next by. Is
garage,
there
puis on
anywhere
va
else that
changer
you
la
can
communauté.
get together in a
Mais
place that is not
qu'on a
as
étudié le
bothersome for
projet un
the
couple de fois,
neighbors? But
puis
if you
s'il y a
said that we
s'il y a
went
encore
there
l'adresse, là, ben là,
a
je peux
couple of
aller
times already,
regarder
I
comment ça
will
a été
check
fait,
and I
puis
can
voir s'il y
check
a
to
des
see
choses
what
qu'on
was
peut
done
faire
and if
pour
there's
mettre à
anything
jour
else
le
we can do.
propriétaire ou
Perhaps approach the
désencombrer
owner of the
ces
lot
affaires-là.
to make them aware that this is
Il y en a
happening.
aussi, si possible,
Yes,
qui
and if
existent, si vous
possible,
avez des indices pour
if you
des
have
meilleures
any
pratiques
uh,
pour s'assurer
best
qu'il
practices
n'y a
to
rien
share
pour
with us
éliminer des
so that
situations
we
comme
can
ça.
improve or
Des
eliminate that kind
exemples,
of
des choses comme
situation. If you
ça,
have
ou
examples of
justement
things to
sur le
do,
terrain qui serait
so
Ben, souvent, c'est
for
l'aménagement de ces
lots,
terrains-là, hein, qui
sometimes it's
sont
the way the
différents,
lots
qui sont
are
vous voyez, comme
built.
ici, c'est une
For
formation la semaine
example,
prochaine sur, c'est un
I
cours appelé CEPTED. C'est
there's
Crime
a
Prevention Through Environmental
crime
Design. Je m'excuse pour le mot
prevention
en
through
français, là, mais
environmental
c'est prévenir le
design.
crime à
It's a
travers de
course
travailler avec
that we're going to
7
be
neurologues
going
pour
on
ça.
next week.
Puis
It's to see
souvent,
how
ce qui arrive,
environmental
c'est
design,
de
the
faire
urban
un
design,
lien
can
avec
help
les
reduce
propriétaires, de
crime.
dire, OK,
And
qu'est-ce
so
qui attire
sometimes
les
it's a
jeunes à cette
question of
région-là? Il y
talking
a
to
telle
the
personne.
owner of the
Puis
land
une
and
fois
say,
qu'on a
okay,
fait le tour,
why are
on
the
dit,
youth
ben,
coming
une
here?
place où ce que
Are
les gens peuvent
maybe
facilement soit filer,
there are
se
some
relever,
areas on
puis
this
nous autres, on fait
lot
des
that the people can
recommandations.
hide in very
On
easily.
dit,
So
bon,
we
ça,
make
si tu
recommendations to
aménages ce terrain-là, tu
the
pourrais
owner
faire
to
plus
say,
de
well, if
stockage,
you cut
plus
the
de ventiler
grass,
ça
if you
caché,
remove
ben là,
things that
ça
they can
serait
hide
plaisant.
in or
Puis c'est
under
sûr, ça serait
behind, that would
attirant
make it
pour du
less
stationnement.
attractive
Puis
for these
éclairage, la
gatherings
lumière,
and
ventilation,
also make
démolir
sure it's
facilement.
well
Ça,
lit.
c'est des choses comme ça qu'on
So
peut faire.
things like that, we can
Ça
do
met pas
that
longtemps.
kind of thing.
C'est peut-être quelque chose que
And
je peux
that's a good
regarder
point that
justement
you
dans ces
raise. Maybe
situations-là.
it's something
Les
that I
gens
can
qui
look
sont
at as well. I would have
puis
people
avoir
who
ça
will have be getting their training next week. So I'll have people who are trained better to
Merci.
respond to this situation. Thank you. Thank you.
D'autres questions?
Any further questions?
Je ne vois pas d'autres
I
questions.
don't see any
Je pense
questions.
qu'on a
So
déjà rempli une bonne
I
partie de ton
think
pain de travail.
we've already filled up
Merci.
your workload
Est-ce que vous
for
auriez
the
quelque
next few
chose à
days.
ajouter?
Would you like to add
Non,
anything
du tout.
yourself?
Merci beaucoup.
No, thank you, Your Worship.
Merci bien. Bonne fin
Thank
de
you.
soirée.
Thank you and have a great evening.
Bon, question du public.
Questions by members of the public.
Quelqu'un, somebody have a question from the public?
Bonsoir.
Bonsoir, madame, si vous voulez
Good
vous
evening.
identifier,
If
s'il
you'd
vous plaît.
like to give us your name, please. Lucie
Merci,
Babineau.
madame Babineau.
Thank you, Madame
Le
Babineau.
24 août, sur
On August
l'Acadie Nouvelle,
24th in
il y avait
l'Acadie
23
Nouvelle, there was a
informations
full
qui disaient
page of
les
information
services de
that
santé
said
mentale
mental
gratuits,
health
mais non pas
services
essentiels
that
aux
are
gens de
free,
Montréal.
which is
Et
essential
moi,
for
c'est
the
ce qui
Moncton
m'intéresse.
community. This is something
J'ai fait des
that I
dépressions,
find interesting because I've had
situelles m'intéresse, mais
depression all my life,
j'allais
so
sur le
I'm
site
interested in
Internet.
it.
Le
But I
site
went to the
est en
website,
anglais et en
and
français.
the
Toutes les
website is
informations
both
sont
English
bilingues.
and French. All of the
J'ai
information
appelé
is
pour
bilingual,
l'information,
but I called
puis
for
la
more
personne qui a
information,
répondu était un
and
anglophone.
the person who
Puis ils
answered
n'offrent pas de
was an
services pour les
Anglophone,
francophones.
and they don't
Et c'est
offer
pas des
services
thérapeutes
for
ou des
Francophone. They only have
Alors, si le
Anglophone
service
therapists.
est pour toute la
So
région,
if this service
je
is
questionne pourquoi
offered
les
to the whole
services de la
region,
ville de
I
Dieppe
was
n'auraient
just
pas leur
wondering
rôle à
if
jouer.
the
Parce que
city
je
of
demande,
Dieppe can
en
do
fait,
something about
ils
this,
cherchent de l'argent, ils veulent de l'argent
because
pour avoir
they're
plus de
looking for
services.
money to be
Si
able to
les
offer
gens
more services.
embauchaient
And
des
if we
thérapeutes,
receive
par exemple,
donations,
pour
perhaps
personnes
they
francophones
could
pour les pays
hire
francophones,
a
ça serait
francophone
avoir des
therapist.
argents
But
pour faire un
does the
don pour les
city
aider.
have any money
Pas
to
une
make a
possibilité pour
donation to this
les francophones.
organization to
Ce n'est pas
offer
des secteurs dans
services to
lesquels
francophones?
la
This
municipalité a
isn't
de
a sector that the
responsabilité.
municipality has any direct
Et c'est certain que
responsibility in,
peut-être on pourrait prendre votre
but
information
perhaps we can take the
et
information if you
avoir une
like,
discussion sur
and
le
we
sujet.
can discuss
Mais
it.
toute la question de santé
But
mentale
the
est
whole
vraiment
issue of mental health, this is something that's really outside of our jurisdiction as a municipality. But we want to help our citizens, of course, as much as possible. So if you could give us the information Perhaps Mr. Richard can take the information from you, and we will contact you to make sure, or we'll make sure that somebody contacts you to see what we can do, how we can get involved if we want to get involved. I would imagine that we will want to get involved, but at least to direct you to the right place locally in order to receive the services in French. Thank you, and thank you.
S'il n'y a pas d'autres questions du public,
If there are no further questions by public,
et bienvenue.
Merci, Monsieur le maire,
here,
membres du conseil,
here.
membres
Good
de
evening.
l'administration.
Good evening, Your Worship. Good
Je pense
evening,
que je suis
members of council
Bonsoir. Paul
and
Béliveau,
staff.
résident d'Dieppe.
Your name? Oh, Paul Béliveau,
Je me
a
trouvais
resident of
ici
Dieppe.
en train de jaser d'un
I
sujet
was
déjà
here
abordé jusqu'à un certain
to
point, mais
talk about a
j'ai
subject that's
beaucoup
always been
d'informations
raised, but I
sur
wanted
la
to talk
ville.
about
C'est
another problem
Miro
in the
Acadie,
city.
puis
It's
on va parler généralement
Acadie
du
and Amiro
ou
streets
anciennement,
and around the
quand nous s'en
marsh.
venons vers le
In the
centre-ville
back,
de
in
Dieppe,
the past, when we'd come
on,
towards the downtown
on avait du 60
area of
km/h
Dieppe,
à partir du
the speed
cimetière.
limit was
Ça, c'est
60
symbolique.
kilometers per hour, starting
Mais
from
ensuite,
the
ça devenait à 60
cemetery. I don't know if that's
jusqu'à la
symbolic or not,
pharmacie,
but
quincaillerie,
then it was
point
50 kilometers per
d'arrêt
hour
Gillette.
from the
C'était
hardware
changé
store and the
depuis.
pharmacy up
Ma
to
question
Gillette Street.
effectivement,
And it
j'aurais
was
voulu
changed
savoir s'il y
recently to
avait eu
50 all
des
along it.
études de fait
My
pour
question is this: was there a study
suivre
done
l'enseignement
in
qualifiant la
order
vitesse
to
moyenne
determine
sur une
what the
période de temps
average
sur
speed
cette
was over a
bordure
certain
de
period of
Ville?
time
Puis
in
depuis
that
2008,
section of
est-ce que
Acadie and
vous avez
Amiro
encore
streets?
fait une autre
And
analyse pour savoir est-ce
since
que la
August
vitesse
1st, have
a
you done
diminué?
a further
Alors, ça,
study
c'est
to
les
see
deux,
if
deux
the
questions.
speed
On
has
a
truly
fait le
gone down?
benchmark avant,
So those
puis
are my
ensuite on
questions.
a
Did we
suivi
have a
par
benchmark
la
speed
réduction
beforehand?
drastique de la vitesse
And
maximum.
now do we know if the speed limit, the speed has been reduced since? I don't know if Ms. Spencer, Mr. Cormier, I don't know if you're able to answer this question. Well, no, unfortunately, no, we don't have that information this evening, but we'll see what information we can share
Je
with
vais
you.
peut-être juste terminer mon
Thank
intervention
you.
en disant, je
Well,
transporte le
thank you.
message a été
But
compris
I
plus ou
don't
moins.
think that the message
Je
has
pense pas
been
que la
well
vitesse a diminué.
understood by
Si
everybody.
j'essaie de
I
rouler
don't think the
police
speed
policière,
has
je
been
roule
reduced,
55
and
km
the
à l'heure.
police isn't here any longer. But if I try to drive
Ça
at
me fait arrêter de doubler pas mal, puis s'il n'y
55
a pas de frontière, je me
kilometers
trouve dedans.
an hour, I'm passed by a lot of people. Well, my experience was different, but yeah, some people still pass me if I drive at between 50 and 55. But yeah, people are still passing me, but not so much. I think that the people passing me aren't driving as fast as I am. Because before, if I drove at 60 or 65, I mean, people would still be passing me at 65 or 70. So we're all in too much of a hurry all the time, and we have nobody else to blame except our own citizens. They are the ones who are on our streets most of the time, and we all know this. We all have a heavy foot. We're all in a hurry all the time, and every 2 months, more or less, now we have the visit of the Highway Patrol Group, the RCMP traffic unit comes, and there's money to be made there. I think they make a lot of money in the city of Dieppe. So I don't understand why there isn't a greater number of people who decide to reduce their speed because of the frequency of the interventions and the fines that are handed out. But we will have more details shortly, and we can give them to you. Yes, please do.
Je vais laisser à madame
And
mon adresse courriel, alors c'est quand vous
I I can give my email address to Ms. Spencer if you like. Yes, perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions from public?
Oui, à moi, Monsieur le maire.
Yes,
On
yes,
a
Your
reçu des
Worship.
questions
We
qui sont
received
adressées au conseil de la part
some
par rapport à
questions
l'Internet.
on the internet. The first question
Madame
from
Joëlle Frenette
Ms. Joëlle Frenet,
pose la question suivante. Je vais vous la
and
lire.
she
Pensez-vous que
asks,
certaines entreprises
I've noticed that certain businesses can put up certain signs here and there on the street side in order to advertise their services. For example, realty services, house painting services. These signs are always unilingual English, and will the city take them away? Will they remove them or replace them with bilingual signs with French first? So it's bylaw Z22 that deals with this, and it deals with bilingual signage, and it only applies to certain signs. And these kind of small signs that are placed on poles or, first of all, well, they're excluded from the bylaw because it it has to be there's a minimum size for them to be covered by the bylaw. So these small signs are excluded, but the city does not tolerate signs by house painters or plumbers or musical instruments for sale on posts. Typically, we remove them, and we call the owner of the sign to ask him to remove it. And then, of course, people have to contact us at the city to call the number to report it. And at the 877-7900 is the general phone number. So that is to answer that question.
Le gazon.
We also received a number of calls regarding lawns. And those are questions that will require more analysis. And that's, we say that on our website. So and it's a series of questions that are addressed to me in a litigious or legal context. So we can't answer those questions today. So if you allow it, I will answer that later, and I will also be responding in writing as well. So, and we've already done that with questions that have arrived too late as well in the past. All right, thank you. That's it. So that concludes item 8. And we are now at item 9, adoption of minutes of the regular council meeting held on August 8th, moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Boudreau. On the question. No, seeing no questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Oh, where were we here? Oh yeah, so this is the minutes of the meeting held on August 8th, so presented as accepted. Item 10, memorandums and nominations, 10.1.1, Mr. Melanson. Good evening, Mr. Your Worship and Council members of Council. In this, we were asking for to appoint somebody to the Greater Moncton Wastewater Commission. So we are wanting to appoint Victor Cormier for a 4-year term ending September 1st, 2026. So Mr. Cormier will be notified, and the authorities of the Wastewater Commission, Transaqua, will also be notified, and this will be made public. All right, who would like to read that motion? Councillor Boudreau. Thank you, Your Worship. That the Council ratify the directive adopted at a closed meeting of Council concerning the following topic. 1, appointment, Greater Moncton Wastewater Commission, adopted June 27th, 2022. So moved. Moved by Councillor Boudreau, seconded by Councillor Godette. On the question. No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries as presented. 10.1.2, Amendment Request Motor Vehicle Act. Mr. Melanson. Councillor Turgeon-Roy mentioned this earlier, but yes, before you, you have we're presenting a resolution requesting that the government of New Brunswick amend the Motor Vehicle Act and that to include noise limits that are easy to measure in decibels and to establish significant and deterrent fines to address the excessive noises made by certain vehicles. And it will also allow the RCMP and local police to intervene. And we're also copying the local governments associations and various local governments so that they can support us. We recognize that this challenge exists elsewhere in New Brunswick. So we're looking for solutions to be able to address this challenge that we're hearing in our community. So we're asking for permission to send the letter and to get direction. Councillor Lantang, that council requests the government of New Brunswick to amend the Motor Vehicle Act to include noise limits that are easy to measure in decibels and to establish significant deterrent fines in order to address the excessive noises made by certain vehicles. That council requests the support of local governments associations and various local governments of New Brunswick of said legislative amendment requests. So moved. Moved by Councillor Lantang, seconded by Councillor Brideau on the question. Ms. Boudreau. Wasn't there a question regarding with regard to the difference between the driver versus the owner of the vehicle? That's already in place with the provincial government who did a first reading. So that's already in the works. We hope that when the legislature continues or resumes, they will go through they'll go through the various steps, and they will put more onus on the owner. It's an issue of identification, and what we're hearing in the background is the government is very serious about the issue, and that will potentially also help us to, at intersections with that will have lights that will be able to take pictures of license plates of cars as they go through the intersections. Cars that are speeding or going through red lights. The technology is there. Other cities are doing this already in various provinces, and the various municipal associations are pushing the provincial government to move in that direction. So governments are moving forward, but we're hoping that things will go quickly and that this will be kind of settled at the next legislative session. And so that would be the same thing for the issue of noise as well? Yes. If you're interested in the topic, especially the topic of noise, I know that there are places in Europe that where they measure the intensity or the level of decibels of the noise of vehicles. So you can do that in the same way as you do with a radar, a photo radar, but you can measure, the decibels above the permitted limit. So I think the RCMP spends a lot of time and energy looking at that. And, I think they're kind of hitting their heads against the wall. They're not able to do, to give us the answers that we're wanting. But the technology exists. And we hope that the whole process will be put in place quickly. All right, that said, are there any other questions? Councillor Godbout. Yes, sorry. In terms of operationalization, I noticed that the correspondence that's sent to the Department of Justice is written in English, but we are legally obligated to, or we have the obligation to correspond in both languages. So Well, the letter was written in French and it was translated into English out of courtesy. So it could be sent to the English-speaking municipal associations. Okay, that's what I was wondering. Okay, so it's a translation of what had been sent in French. Okay, perfect.
Merci. Autre question, Monsieur Thibodeau.
Councillor Thibodeau, Your Worship, you talked about license plates earlier, and that made me think of something. More and more, I'm seeing license plates that people have covered with plastic, and the license becomes illegible. So could we check on that?
Juste de mémoire, mémoire vive.
Now, just speaking from memory,
Mais si,
which I'm already having difficulty with.
Si le numéro de plaque n'est pas visible, ça,
If the number is not legible, that in itself is an infraction to the Motor Vehicle Act.
si vous en avez que vous connaissez, gênez-vous pas, appelez la GRC au numéro qui nous a été donné.
But are you aware of some situations? Oh, well, you have to be imaginative there if you want to report these cards, you got to take. All right, Councillor Brideau. No? Oh, that's okay. Okay, we've turned the light off there. So. All right. So all those in favor of the resolution, say aye. Opposed? Okay, the motion carries, or the motion carries as is. 10.1.3 request. We're at 10.1.3, not 10.3.1. Request for exemption by law Z22. Oh, sorry, I skipped that part. I skipped over it. Okay, so we have a request for exemption under bylaw Z22 regulating external commercial signs for Le Moniteur Acadien. This is a unilingual a French language newspaper. So we want to allow them to have a sign that's only in French. Mr. Godet, would you like to read the resolution? That council authorized Le Moniteur Acadien to proceed with unilingual francophone external commercial signage until further notice. I so move, seconded by Councillor Turgeon-Roy on the question. No questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries as is. All right, now we're at 10.2.1, temporary street closure for the Monde en Fête festival. So this is a great initiative that is being prepared in collaboration with the CAFI and the municipality of Dieppe. So we're asking that Marché Street, or the closure rather of Gauvin Street between Acadie and Marché from Saturday, September 24th at 2 p.m. until midnight on Sunday, September 25th. There is a series of activities and programming that are in the works. And if the members of councillors, we have staff here, so if members of council want to hear more, they can give us information. All right. Councillor Boudreau, would you read the resolution, please? That council authorized the temporary closure of Gauvin Road between Acadie Avenue and Marché Street from Saturday, September 24th, 2022 at 2 p.m. until Sunday, September 25th, 2022 at midnight. And I hope this is the first of what will be many festivals. All right, I totally agree with you. To seconder, Councillor Thibodeau, any questions? Go ahead. I'm wondering if we shouldn't specify that the closure, that there will be opening for the hotel there. Well, that's part of the plan there. We've kind of planned for access to the hotel. We're speaking with the Wingate Hotel, so there will be access to the underground parking, and security will be in place so that everything runs smoothly. All right, thank you. Councillor Boutier. Yes, Your Worship. I realize that this is a Saturday afternoon. So, and were the business people in the area consulted? Everybody was in agreement? I'm looking at Mr. Richard. Does he have an answer for us? I don't know which entrepreneurs or business merchants were consulted, but there were attempts to communicate with those individuals, but I can't. I know that the market merchants were contacted, but I can't confirm that any others were there. But you don't see any issues with closing that road on a Saturday? But no, I think that's good that you pointed out, and we'll communicate with those people, and maybe this evening they'll be hearing about the closure. I think this is something that was done in the past as well, so it won't be a big surprise, but we will try to connect with those people. I have another little question here, just to confirm that we see that there's going to be a lot of kiosks and activities and booths between Place 1604. So that whole area will be closed off. You're referring to what, the parking between Place 1604 and the street? No, more on the market side. Because if there are games, we want to make sure that there's no parking there. Yes, there will be, the street will be closed off, so there will be no parking at all. Okay, we can't see the photo, but where we see street closed, there's parking. So that part will be blocked off? Yes. All right, thank you. Councillor Boudreau, further questions? Yes, I just wanted to make sure that there is communication with the music teachers and the art instructors that are at the art center, so that they know well in advance, especially for their students who come for classes. They won't necessarily know that there's something going on, and they won't know how to get into the building. There's always a bit of confusion when there are things happening in Place 1604. So I just want to make sure that the tenants are informed well in advance, so that the music teachers and arts instructors can be. All right, I see at least 3 people taking notes, so there's a good chance that that will be done. All right. No further questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion carries as is, but with the issues mentioned and noted down. Your Worship, I would like to take this opportunity also to mention that the CAFI representative is here, Ms. Laustier, and the Director of the Immigration Sector, Emilie. So good evening to both of you. Good evening and welcome. All right, we are at 10.3.1 now. Yes. So here we have a request for a property located at 606 Leblanc Road. They want an autonomous sewer system, a private system. And as you know, here in Dieppe, we have an obligation that people have to connect with the municipal system, but this land does not have a sewer system, so they need an authorization from City Council. And after approval is granted, we will be making sure that they comply with all the health and safety regulations, and they will be able to connect to the municipal system in the future. But the staff is recommending that we recognize or that we allow them to implement a private system. For a reading of the resolution, Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you, Your Worship. The Council declare that the installation of a municipal sanitary sewer is not required to service the property identified under PID 70013511, located at 606 Leblanc Road, pursuant to Section 12B2 of Bylaw 8225, entitled A Bylaw Relating to Local Improvements. So moved. Moved by Councillor Turgeon-Roy, seconded by Councillor Brideau. On the question, Mr. Godet. Thank you, Your Worship. I just have a question. How far, sir, the sound cut out, the interpreter could not hear the full question. Mr. Cormier, I would say 400 or 500 meters. It's just, I'm thinking that with it, so this does not, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to be offering services in that area in the near future, but I'm just wondering how far it was from the city itself. The question is patience. I see that there's an authorization for a 3-road capacity. Could there be a larger house than a 3-house unit that might be possible? Mr. Alexandre, do you have the information? Are we authorizing the installation of something, or are we limiting the size of what could be built on this property? In terms of density and things that would be allowed in that area. Thank you for the question. To my knowledge, the zoning is AA. So it's it's a single family dwelling. That's the maximum. And it could be a big house. There could be 5 bedrooms, but in terms of housing, there's only one single housing unit that's allowed. So what's permitted here is not necessarily what would allow them to maximize use of that lot. No, the services aren't there, so we don't want to encourage densification on that plot. But in 10, 15 years, maybe services will be there, and then we can look at densifying that area. But Leblanc right now is defined in the plan. We're not looking at further densification other than single dwellings. Okay, any further questions? Councillor Leboutier. The mics are not working anymore. Or maybe I'm just too quick. I just had a question to clarify. There was a talk about midterm, but what does that mean, midterm? In the next 10 years. Time flies quickly. And there's a lot of, with all the unknowns about local governance and the white paper, we need to plan for the future. We need to keep the future in mind. All right. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. The motion carries as presented. That brings us to 10.4.1, Centre d'accueil or CAFI. Mr. Melanson. The next 2 items deal with appointments to committees that require a councillor. So to maintain a balance between the workload of each councillor, this is why we're asking to appoint Councillor Brideau. And I think the resolution will speak for itself. All right, who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Thibodeau. Thank you, Your Worship. The council appoint Councillor Jean-Marc Brideau to replace Councillor Corinne Godbout on the Board of Directors of the Centre d'accueil d'accompagnement francophone des immigrants du Sud-Est du Nouveau-Brunswick, the CAFI board, for a term ending June 12th, 2023. So moved. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Leboutier. On the question. No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. The motion carries, or the resolution carries as presented. 10.4.2, Mr. Melançon. This again is an appointment of Councillor Jean-Marc Prideaux to Magma. All right, we're going to get him working there. All right. So to read the resolution, Councillor Thibodeau, go ahead. That Councillor appoint Councillor Jean-Marc Prideaux to replace Councillor Corinne Godbout on the Board of Directors of the Multicultural Association of the Greater Moncton Area for a term ending June 12th, 2023. I so move. Moved by Councillor Thibodeau, seconded by Councillor Leboutier. On the question. No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, say nay. Motion, or 10.4.2, carries unanimously. We're jumping over 10.5.1, so we're which brings us to item 10.6.1. Mr. Melançon, we were asked to set a public hearing date, October 11th at Dieppe City Hall. We adopted a zoning bylaw 10, Z10 had an anomaly. So there were things that were changed by mistake. So the intention is not to revise those three parcels of land, but this is the procedure that we need to kind of address the errors. And the description will be in the resolution so that we can move on to the planning part. All right, to read the resolution, Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you, Your Worship. That Council schedule a public hearing on October 11th, 2022 at 7 p.m. at Dieppe City Hall to hear objections pertaining to the proposed amendment to the zoning map. Zoning bylaw Z10 2021 for the lands identified under PIDs 70, 40, 54, 36, 70, 61, 66, 33 portion, and 70, 65, 66, 57. I so move. Proposed by Councillor so on the question. No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed. Motion carries unanimously as presented. That brings us to 10.6.2. Here we have a PAC recommendation for a tentative plan regarding the Domaine du Marais subdivision. So we have a recommendation that the plan be accepted, and which provides for the name and location of Vision Court, the location of the local government service easement, as well as the location of lands for public purposes. So this is a recommendation from PAC committee. All right, thank you. To read the resolution, Councillor Brideau. That Council accept the Planning Advisory Council's recommendation relating to the acceptance of the Domaine du Marais subdivision tentative plan dated June 2022, which provides for the name and location of Vision Court, the location of the local government service easement, as well as the location of lands for public purposes. So moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Lantaigne. On the question. No question. Oh, sorry, Councillor Godbout. Just a bit of a follow-up question. And I think I've understood with regard to land for public purposes. Now, we had discussions in the past that we wanted maybe a bigger easement so that we had lots of trees for trails. Now, are we not at a point where those things have been implemented? Haven't have employees not been kind of directed to do that? So thank you for the question. To my knowledge, we're continuing with the current practice, so allowing 12 meters in width. And the team and my colleague, Mr. Nadeau, maybe we'll take a look at that and make future recommendations. But to my knowledge, we're using the current practice. So, well, for me, this is something that I would like to see in the future. And I think we had talked about this, but this is the first time that I've seen it in something concrete. So I just was curious about that. We'd like to see that in the future for me anyways.
Questions? Alors, ceux qui sont en
Thank
faveur de
you. So all those in favor will signify by saying aye.
contraire par un non.
Opposed, nay.
10.6.2
10.6.2 is carried as presented. We're now on 10.6.3. Once again, it's a recommendation from the PAC relating to the acceptance of the Dieppe Sky Development subdivision, which provides for the extension of Pierre Street and Dieppe Boulevard. There's a recommendation here that we accept the tentative plan dated July 1st, no, dated July 2022, which provides for the extension and the location of the local government service easement, and further accept that the developer pay an amount of $32,841.45, which represents 8% of the market value of the land. And so this is for your approval this evening. Thank you. And who would like to read this resolution? Councillor Brideau. Everybody's so shy this evening. Your Worship, that Council accept the Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation relating to the acceptance of the Dieppe Sky Development Unit 1 subdivision tentative plan dated July 2022, which provides for the extension and the location of Pierre Street and the location of the local government service easement, and further accept that the developer pay the amount of $32,841.45 in lieu of land for public purposes, which represents 8% of the market value of the said subdivision land. And I so move. Been moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Thibodeau on the question. Councillor Godbout, thank you. Well, I have some questions on the third recommendation. I think would be worth looking at this closer. This is in terms of the amount of $32,841. I have some questions on the assessment of the value of this property. If I understood correctly, and I read the documentation, the property has been assessed. Can I know who assessed it and what the date of the assessment was? Thank you for your question. Unfortunately, I don't have the date of the report, but I can certainly ask my colleague to distribute the report to you, and yeah, we can forward it to you. But once again, just to explain our professional practice, it's an appraiser, a professional appraiser who establishes the market value based on the condition of the land, if it's natural state, and other than that, I don't know any of the technical details. I don't know what gives it value specifically, but of course they look at the potential, but that's limited to a certain point. I imagine it won't be a problem distributing the report to make sure you're more familiar with it. And the amount that was the appraiser who determined the amount. Well, if you do $32,000 equal 8%, yeah, it gives a value of about $500,000. Because the property was sold this summer for $1.7 million. So 8% of 1.7 million is 136,000. So I'm trying to understand we're leaving $100,000 on the table.
Le terrain a été vendu
The
1,7
property
million.
was sold on June 9th for $1.7 million. So who did the appraisal and how did they come up with an amount of $450,000? It's an issue that I've raised on numerous occasions already, and this time I have a concrete example of this going on. I cannot, in all conscience, vote in favor of this resolution, and I don't think I can't see that this information was given to the PAC either in terms of the market value. 3 months ago, the sale value. I'm not saying that's the real market value, but it's the sale value 3 months ago, and that's very different from $450,000. So I'm against this resolution. I think this is the perfect example of the fact that we are not applying the council's directive appropriately when we determine the market value of a property. Councillor, Your Worship, we've heard your comments this evening and at other times, and we're trying to see how we can modify the way we operate in this kind of situation. And we can't earnestly, but it was the summer, and right now we are looking at it once again. We'll come up with some comments to answer your question. Your question has been noted, and we'll see how we can act differently to reflect your comment and to see if there are other impacts that we haven't seen yet. But right now, that's the only thing I can answer. Yes, we heard your comment and we're looking at it. Thank you.
Merci.
Thank you.
Monsieur Lantin.
Merci, Monsieur le maire.
Councillor Lantin.
Donc,
Thank you, Your Worship.
Je comprends les doléances
So
des conseillers.
I understand the comments of
Je
Councillor
trouve que ça fait
Godbout,
du sens,
and I think that
mais
this makes a lot of sense.
présentement,
But
c'est la règle
currently,
publiée, c'est
that
même
is the
règle
rule
réglementaire.
that is being used. It's the
Réglementaire, c'est
same
fait
rule
pour
for everybody. It might
que
be
c'est fair à tout le monde jusqu'à ce qu'on change
a
cette
disadvantage
je vais pas
for
dire
the
trop
city, but it's
ça fait
fair
longtemps que c'est
to
de façon qu'on
everybody
fonctionne.
because this is the way we proceed. So it's the
Changer
same
les
for
choses,
everybody.
résolution
If we are
prendre.
going to
Ma
change things,
question,
we're going to
c'est
have to come back with a resolution and apply it to
lorsqu'on décide
everybody.
de prendre de
But this
l'argent
is my
comme
question.
ça,
When we agree to take money
au
like
lieu
this,
de 10%
instead
du
of a
terrain,
10% of the
c'est quoi
land,
la
for
raison? C'est
example,
qu'il
what is the
n'y
reason?
a pas
Is it
d'espace,
because there's
il n'y a pas
not
trop
enough
serré,
space? It's too
ou
small, too
est-ce qu'ils ont
close?
toujours le choix dans le
Or
fond de
do
nous
they
donner tout
always have
l'argent
the
pour le
choice
sport?
of giving us either land for public purposes or an amount in lieu? It's the city who decides. Our staff look at the trail network to see if we need more land, to see if we can ensure a connection to the trail network. If there's a surplus, that's when we get cash in lieu
OK, puis ça,
for a
c'est
value of
bon.
8%. And we reinvest it either in future trails or the purchase of land to build up the trail network. So it's really specific
Excellent, parce que ma
for
sous-question, ça,
the
c'était de
trail
savoir
network.
est-ce qu'on
Well, that was
évalue
my question.
la
Thank you.
possibilité de
Because do we
connecter
assess the
nos sentiers
possibility of connecting up the different trails first and foremost? Because we say we want to promote active transportation and it's important. So that's always looked at? Yeah, that's the first level of the assessment. We look at the trail network to see if we can connect this, if it would help the network, if it would expand it. That's the first thing we look at. And secondly, if there is no need for this land in that location, then we take cash in lieu. And we've been doing that for 30 years. Well, I wasn't here 30 years ago. No, of course not. You're far too young. You were still in diapers back then. But yeah, the trails are always the first consideration. Yes, thank you. That's why we're here, to learn.
Merci, Monsieur Lang.
Councillor Godet,
Je
thank
regarde
you.
la carte, là,
I was
actuellement,
looking at the
ici,
map here,
l'extension de la
and
rivière va
the
passer
extension
par
of
le chantier, parce
Pierre
que
Street.
regarde cette carte-là, ça va droite,
If you look at this map,
sortir à
it
droite,
just goes straight and then it turns
proche,
right. And I know there's a trail there because I take it quite
savoir
often.
comment
But
proche
how
la
close
va passer du
to
centre.
this trail will this land
J'ai
be?
malheureusement pas la réponse.
Well, I'm sorry, I don't have the answer.
Lequel sentier que tu
Which trail are you referring to? Well, there's a trail right there. Like you have Pierre Street,
En arrière de la rivière,
and
il y a
behind
un
Pierre,
boulevard qui
there's a
Boulevard
trail
Pierre.
that goes out towards
Si,
Dieppe Boulevard.
sur la carte
Yeah.
80,
And on the map,
la rivière
99,
commence à aller droit,
where
puis là,
Pierre Street
à
starts,
droite,
it's straight and then it turns right towards the trail. So of course, we want to make sure we keep some trees there between the trail and the street. That's why I'd like to have other maps as well. You know, on Google Map, we can really see it clearly. Here, I can't tell what's what. So I know that the trail is pretty close. Well, as far as I know, I don't see the trail at all on the map. Well, yeah, exactly. You don't see it on here.
On prend note, on s'assure
Well,
de faire le
we'll
suivi sur votre question.
we'll take note of your question and we'll follow up on it.
Merci.
Thank you. Thank you.
Madame Leboutier.
Councillor
Merci,
Leboutier.
Monsieur le maire.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Ben moi, c'était aussi concernant le.
I also had a question
Excusez-moi, je vais juste revenir
on, excuse me, I have to find my
sur les terrains
place
d'utilité
here,
publique.
on the land for public
J'aimerais,
purposes.
si possible,
If
dans le
possible,
futur,
in the
pas
future,
besoin d'être une thèse, mais au moins une
doesn't have to
théorie
be a
pour pouvoir
master's
recommander
thesis, but I'd
pas
like to
utiliser
know,
au lieu de
at
juste
least
dire
in a couple of lines, of
j'aimerais
why
savoir, parce
we
que
recommend one or
ce
the other.
sentier-là,
Because,
l'autre
for
sentier,
example, there's a trail here, there's a trail there, and once
juste au
again,
moins le
I'd like to
pourquoi
have just a
du
couple of
changement
lines
que
on why,
c'est
in this
nécessaire, pas
case,
notre gouvernement.
it
Parce que
is
l'avenir,
determined that we
notre
don't
de l'art,
need
c'est
the
l'avenir.
land,
Je pense qu'il
because
faut être de garder. J'aimerais
I
avoir
think
cette
I'd
information.
like to have that information in the future in order to be able to properly vote on a motion such as this one. Thank you. Yes, I'll take note
Moi,
of that.
aussi, là,
And
sur le point de
on
conseillère
the
Godbout,
issue
je
raised
vais
by
voter
Councillor
contre cette motion
Godbout, I'm
aussi
going to vote against this motion as well
de la nouvelle information.
for
Je trouve que c'est
following the
vraiment
information, the
difficile
new
de
information that
savoir.
we've received.
Mais si c'est
Because
après l'achat, si c'est au mois de
this,
juin, il y a
if
quand même
if
3 mois
the
de
appraisal
délai,
was
puis
done since
c'est de
the
l'argent de
sale,
nos fonds publics,
that's
de nos
money
millions de
lost
citoyens de
from
Dieppe.
our public purse, from the citizens of Dieppe.
C'est tout.
Thank
Alors,
you.
pour
So
le vote, ceux qui sont en faveur de
all
la
those in
résolution, s'il vous plaît, par
favor of the
oui.
resolution will signify.
De l'avis contraire par un non.
Opposed.
Est-ce qu'on peut avoir
Could we have
des non?
the no votes?
2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Alors, on refuse le
7.
développement.
So this is rejected.
Pardon? Refuser la recommandation.
Yes, the recommendation from PAC is
Juste pour les fins du prochain
refused.
votez oui.
So who voted yes, just for the
Lantaigne et
record?
Thibodeau.
Councillors Lantaigne et Thibodeau. Thank you.
Ça nous amène maintenant.
Which,
Pardon? Oui, oui.
Je veux dire, faut pas juste dire, passer au prochain point, on a quand même
well,
quelqu'un qui a soumis quelque chose au CCU, une recommandation, ils ont fait 3 recommandations, il y en a une.
I'm sorry, the microphone is not on.
Pouvoir de faire une résolution
So
à la suite pour dire
we
on accepte ça
we
avec une condition différente.
we could I don't know the procedure here. Do we can we propose a new resolution with the modified resolution? No, well, staff has to recommend something. Yes. So it has to, we have to look at the property again. We have to communicate the desire of the council to take land, or we can get a second opinion in order, and we can distribute the second opinion to council. We could go back to the PAC as well to get a new recommendation with a new appraisal, with a new assessment in a new report. So if council agrees to 10% of the value or of the land or 8% of the value, well, this is the first time that I see council voting nay. So in terms of procedure, if you want we can ask for a new appraisal, and then we can contact internal services to see the best approach with the new information, and we can come back to you with this new information. Thank you. I just wanted to understand the procedure from now on. Yes, yes. So we're going to ask to clarify if there's a trail. It might be a trail right on the road or a gravel trail. That's something that we'll clarify. We'll ask staff to clarify, and we'll come back with that information. Thank you.
Maintenant, encore on a
So we are now at step 10.6.4 for another PAC recommendation. Once again, this is a recommendation on the amendment of the tentative plan, H&L framing. This will be connecting to Amiro Street, and it's also on Marcelin and Amel Streets. And the committee, the Planning Advisory Committee, the PAC recommends the acceptance of the subdivision plan and the name and location of Étoile Court, as well as the location of local government service easement. And this is for the approval of council. Thank you. Who would like to read the resolution? Councillor Turgeon-Roy. Thank you, Your Worship. That council accept the Planning Advisory Committee's recommendation relating to the acceptance of H&L framing subdivision amending the tentative plan dated June 2022, which provides for the name and location of Étoile Court, as well as the location of the local service easement. And I so move.
Seconded by Councillor Boudreau on the question. Councillor Godet. Thank you. I just have a question. If you look at the at map 105, I don't live far from there, but the house on the right-hand lot, there's just one house, and I think it's up for sale, but I'm not sure. There's a sale, but we'll just have a little corner left. I wonder if the developer is trying to get that land. Thank you. To my knowledge, no, that's not the case. There were no steps to purchase that land. Okay. Thank you. Any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries as presented. 10.7, tourism maintenant. Mr. Melançon. Yes, it's so we want the councillor's approval to submit the City of Dieppe nomination for the Jeux de l'Acadie in 2025. And there will be a great economic and cultural impact. We already had the games in past years, in previous years, and we're not going to share the application, the submission document, because we want to keep the surprises. But I can assure you that if we're selected, we will be making a presentation and sharing the information. But the key item here, or the key idea here, is that we want council's support to submit for this. And we've already done kind of an internal evaluation of our volunteer capacity and other things. So we've worked with Luc Bijot and the communications often. So we need your support to officially submit our application, and then we'll come back to you if we're selected. All right, Councillor Brideau, could you read the resolution, please? That council support the City of Dieppe's nomination as the host city of the Finale des Jeux de l'Acadie in 2025. So moved. All right, moved by Councillor Brideau, seconded by Councillor Boudreau on the question. Question? Yes. So when we hold these activities, often we look in advance. Now, I approve the resolution, but I just need a piece of information. When you do your planning, is this event going to occur with other events that might be in conflict? I just want to understand the process. Are there things that we're not going to be doing in the future because of this? The answer is no, because that's part of the city's plan. les Jeux de l'Acadie is already part of the City of Dieppe's plan there. So, all right, any further questions? All right, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries as presented. 11.1 bylaw authorizing the City of Dieppe to permanently close a portion of Yvonne Street. All right, this is where reading it in its entirety, we've already done the first and second reading. This is about closing off Yvonne. We have to close off this street. All right, so Councillor Lebouty, could you read the bylaw? Bylaw authorizing the City of Dieppe to permanently close a portion of Yvonne Street. Being enacted by the Municipal Council of the City of Dieppe, whereas Section 10(1)p II of the Local Governance Act, Chapter 18 of the Statutes of New-Brunswick 2017, authorizes City Council to make bylaws for municipal purposes respecting the temporary and permanent opening and closing of roads, streets, and highways. And whereas the closing of a portion of Yvonne Street, identified in Schedule A, hereto attached, aims to foster the economic well-being of its community. Now, therefore, be it resolved that from the date of ordaining and passing of this bylaw, the portion of public street herein mentioned and specified in Schedule A be permanently closed. So moved. Thank you. Moved by Councillor Lebouty, seconded by Councillor Lantaigne. On the question? No questions. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Bylaw C36 has been read in its entirety and is approved. Now we will proceed to third reading by title only, third and final reading. Councillor Lebouty. Bylaw number C36, bylaw authorizing the City of Dieppe to permanently close a portion of Yvonne Street. So moved in third reading by title only. Seconded once again by Councillor Lantaigne. On the question, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. 11.1.2 passes in third reading. Item 12, no notice of motion. Do we have any notices of motion? Councillor Thibodeau. Yes, I would like to present a notice that Council revise C35 to define certain terms to eliminate or to reduce confusion, and that the review of this bylaw be suspended or the use of that bylaw be suspended until it's reviewed, and that we call upon an environmental expert. So for example, the person who will be chosen shortly, so that that person can guide us towards best practices in terms of the environment. So the City of Dieppe claims to be respectful of the environment, and we can do a better job. And I know that it's the council that recently adopted this bylaw, but if there are problems with it, we have to kind of adjust things. There you go. Thank you for that notice of motion. Do we need someone to second that? No? All right. Okay, that goes directly to staff. The interpreter cannot hear the speaker. Microphone, please. All right, thank you. Inquiries and announcements by members of council now. We may have a long session since we've not seen each other in quite a while, and I believe it is Councillor Lantaigne's turn to start. I will be very brief. Thank you, Your Worship. I would like to wish a happy return to school to all teachers and school staff, all the workers in the school system, and the students, of course. Let's hope that this school year will be a little bit easier than past years, and I think it will be. But I want to wish everybody a safe and happy school year. My second and last point, I would like to take this opportunity to thank or to congratulate the organizations of the YQM Country Fest. It was an excellent weekend. I heard some excellent feedback from community members, and we're lucky to have such large events here in Dieppe, and we have to continue to work together to continue doing that. And from what I saw, there is a lot of work in the background that we're not aware of, but from what I saw and from what I heard, that things, security was great, traffic flowed nicely, and as Ms. Farah mentioned, and the quality of, there were internationally renowned artists, Blake Shelton. Those are big names, and people were really appreciative. So we're lucky to have that in our beautiful city, and it was a wonderful stage, outdoor stage. So we have to take advantage of it. That's it for me. So have a great evening. Thank you, Councillor Godbout. Thank you. I won't repeat what the feedback of Councillor Lanting about the concert. I have some other comments. I'm a new member on the Kodiak Regional Committee. We met in the coming months, we will be bringing recommendations. And I know that there were things that were in the news lately, but there are more concrete announcements coming. So just look out for that. There's other information that to be coming. Magma and Cafe, I would like to thank the mayor. They do excellent work in the area of immigration and reception of immigrants. And Councillor Rideau, I know that you're going to be coming, you'll be sharing your wisdom and your to the committee. So it's excellent to work with both organizations. And I look forward to you attending our meetings. Another few things, there are a few activities that I've been able to take part in the past few weeks. First was the commemoration of the Dieppe raid here in Dieppe. Some people went to Dieppe, France, but I just want to talk about the great activity that we had here in Dieppe. There was great participation. So not only did we have the commemoration, but we also were able to receive delegates from Poland. So there was a commemorative plaque that was put in place that underlined or that underscored people who helped in the Dieppe raid. So if you want to go and visit it, it's at Place 1604. So it was a great sunny, warm day. There was a great celebration and a good participation. There was also an opening at the Centre des Arts, or the Arts Center, and we encourage residents to go and see the exhibition. It's an exhibition by local artists. I would like to congratulate the Art Center for those art launches, and I encourage residents to go and take part in the great activities that are coming in the next few weeks. Councillor Turgeon-Roy. I'm just going to add a little bit to what Councillor Godbout said. In August, I had an opportunity to participate in the AGM of the Art Center and to see its new programming. And this center is really it has a renewed board of directors. Miss Seveline Fox is the executive director, is doing a great job. There are also volunteers. Riam Poitras, Marc Leblanc, Guy Duguay, Marilyn. So the interpreter is having difficulty hearing the speaker. The sound is cutting in and out. Clotilde, and also the city representative, Ms. Pauline Cormier. So I really want to thank those people who are getting involved and who are making our city a place where it's a great place to live. There are other things that I want to mention as well at the Art Center. Now we have the opportunity to get a member's card. It costs $25 and it gives activities to exclusive pre-sales, to discounts on shows, and also exclusive offers. So I invite you to go and visit the new website of the Dieppe Arts and Culture Center. That's all for me. Have a great week. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. I also heard a lot of great words about the YQM Country Fest. I think people truly appreciated the organization that was done not only by Mr. Bourgeois, but the participation of the city and the staff that worked hard to make it a success. Secondly, I'd like to talk about the census and the linguistic profile of the city. I mentioned it earlier, but the change, the size of the change is very alarming. I think we should conduct a more in-depth analysis by a social linguist expert, by the Canadian Forum for Social Linguistics, or by a professor of social linguistics at the University of Moncton. I think these people are very interested in the official languages. And I think it would be a good idea for us to have an in-depth study of the situation, because the fact that people are speaking more in English, is it because people are is it people are marrying outside, or is it something else? Is there something we can do? Can we promote French more? Can we push the Department of Immigration harder to bring in more Francophone immigrants? So I, I think we have to recognize that the Anglophones who have set up in Dieppe are Francophiles, and we want to keep them here, of course. But I think we should do an in-depth analysis of these figures that came out of the census. Another point, I'd like to talk about the passing of Sir Rita Mario, and I'd like to offer my condolences to her family, who are mostly here in Dieppe. And lastly, yesterday, I had the chance to go to a meeting of the Tirela Association of Moncton. It's a group of Asians from Bangladesh, from Sri Lanka, from India, and other countries. And I was able to see some performances of song and dance and some traditions. And then there was a buffet of traditional foods, and I found it very interesting. And if ever you have the chance to go to that kind of activity, please feel free. It's really great. So, Your Worship, that's it for me this evening. Thank you. And I just want to make a comment. There are probably a lot of players. Cricket. There were probably a lot of cricket players in those countries. Yes, thank you. Councillor Brideau. Thank you, Your Worship. And since summer is coming to an end, I would like to congratulate all the staff who organized picnics and neighborhood parties. We had one in Ward 1. It was a great success. It was a beautiful day. People were able to meet new neighbors who have come to live in our neighborhood. And I think it was really great. And I think in the future, I think maybe we should try and have a greater number of this kind of activity with barbecues and so on. And Ms. Spencer and Marc-André, I finally was able to cross Gaspé and Angeline. There's now a pedestrian crosswalk at Gaspé and Angeline Street. So I'm hoping that there won't be any accidents, that everything will be perfect. The lines were well drawn. Thank you for all of your work. And we talked earlier, um, Mr. Lantaigne and Mr. Thibodeau's mentioned the YQM Fest that we hosted here at Dieppe. I'd like to thank our staff, especially, who really rolled up their sleeves and and helped with the setting up, and Ms. Pauline Cormier, who did an excellent job. She was our contact person at council for the organization, for the invitation. I received thanks from people in the neighborhood, the people who were facing the back of the arts center, and they received invitations to participate in the show, but I said that we're not the ones who were offering these tickets. It's the company offering the show, but it was really appreciated by people. So I think it really was a great compliment to the whole organization of the show. I think we'll probably be able to host a number of them in the future as well. Thank you. That's all. Thank you, Councillor Brito. Councillor Boudreau. Thank you, Your Worship. This summer, I was chosen to go to the ceremonies of the 80th anniversary of the Dieppe raid. I thank you immensely. I went along with the Mayor Lapierre and Councillor Leboutier and two veterans, Misters Richard and Ladrière. This allowed me to really think and reflect on the sacrifice of our youth to maintain and protect our democracy and our boundaries. It was troubling, however, to see the uh, the tombs of these youth in France. It was a sacrifice of a whole generation of youth, and I was thinking, well, while I was at the interpretation center in Juno Beach, I was trying to think of the trauma they suffered. It was a very educational uh, trip for me, and it still touches me. It was very quite an honor for me. And I have a question to move on to something else here. Do we have an update on the on-demand transportation service? Do we have any statistics after the summer season? Mr. Richard, we are preparing a report right now, an update on this. But we continue to have new clients who sign up. The volume goes up continually. We added a second vehicle for on-demand transportation for a part of Saturday and Sunday. So we're working on a document with more specific statistics right now, though. Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Leboutier. Thank you, Your Worship. I would also like to congratulate all the organizers of YQM and all of our staff who worked very hard to ensure the event and the success of the event. We received such great comments and the impact that this is going to have on our municipality as well. I think that we're going to see a great economic impact of this event in the future, and that's thanks to everybody and everybody's participation. Of course, there are always things that can be improved upon, but there were very little of what I saw improved. I'd also like to congratulate our Dieppe soccer team that won the provincial championship and soon will be headed out to the national championship. Congratulations. There's another team from Dieppe, the U13, that won the provincial women's championship, so congratulations. I'd also like to wish a great school year to all students
universitaire, collégial,
at,
notre système scolaire aussi.
at university, in the community colleges,
Laisse-moi
and
aussi
in
prendre
our public school system.
30 secondes.
I'd like to
J'aimerais
take 30 seconds, if you will, to thank
avoir été choisi pour
to thank
représenter Dieppe
you for having been chosen to represent Dieppe in France, in Dieppe, France. It was quite the trip. It was very tiring because we'd had to get up very early every day, but it was very enriching, and we were so lucky to have had the opportunity to experience this and to see all of these people in France and Normandy, to see the cultural differences between us, but also the similarities, the links. We had there's a lot of things that we'll be able to work on and build on in the future. To things we saw Juno Beach, we saw the Vimy Ridge, and we saw Vimy, yes, which saw battle, and we saw these wonderful buildings and monuments. We had a great meeting with the town of Dieppe. We had great exchanges. And we have to continue that in the future as well. And I think it's something that we have to continue to do every 5 years for as long as we can. And even here, we were able to reflect upon it to see how we can develop activities here, some commemorative activities to commemorate the Dieppe Parade here in the municipality. Now, I'd now like to talk about two other items. In the marsh area, there are some electric poles that are right on the riverfront trail, right in the middle of the trail almost, that are in a really bad shape. And I'm wondering, what are they holding up here? Because if there's a big storm one day, it's going to have an impact. I don't know if we've already tried to do something with NB Power or whoever to. I think we should put pressure on whoever owns them to change those, to replace them. I saw them recently, and a number of people have talked to me about them as well on several occasions. I'd also like to talk about something that I've brought up recently with uh, the RCMP earlier. I want to ensure citizens that we are looking at possible solutions for the challenge or for the situation that we're facing of these gatherings of people, in order to have tools here in the municipality so that we, the municipality, have the tools necessary to develop long-term solutions in order to try and minimize these situations and these problems and to protect our residents, to help them feel safe in their own environment. But also as a municipality, it's our responsibility to ensure that the protection of our residents. So I want to make sure that everybody is aware of the situation and that we will try and see what we can do with the means at hand, and we'll work with those. Thank you, Your Worship. That's all I had this evening. Thank you, and thank you to everybody. It's really nice to see you all once again. Oh, sorry. Sorry. It's because your time was taken up by your colleague here, so there's no time left for you. But no, I'll make an exception. I'll give you an extra 2 minutes. How's that?
Merci du maire.
Thank you, Your Worship.
Beaucoup de choses qui ont été dites. Je vais pas
A lot has already been said. I'm not going to repeat it all, but I'd like to wish everybody a good return to school. Well, to students and teachers and staff. I hope you'll have a better year this year than the last two. And YQM as well. I had comments from people who came here from outside. They said it was one of the best concerts, that it was really well organized, and there were enough facilities and so on and so forth. And another point, I just want, we still have concerns in the Fox Creek Amiro area. I think we talked about signage a little earlier.
On a été comme un suivi de.
Do we have any follow-up? Thank you. You'll have to refresh my memory because from memory, I think we had asked that their signs be put up, but I'll follow up on that. Thank you, that's all. Have a good evening. Thank you. So now, in terms of YQM, just a few words. Blake Shelton in Calgary was in Calgary and Dieppe this year. Those are the only two stops in his tour in Canada this year, for the record. And tennis, also, we celebrated the 30th anniversary of our tennis club here in Dieppe. And people I met during their barbecue were really happy with the service they received from the city of Dieppe, and more specifically, the services from Jonathan and his team, and the excellent work they do. The U13, that was the team. There were two teams from Dieppe in the final. Were they one of those two? I think that in the under 13, the U13, or no, maybe it was the U15. No, sorry. I know that one of the groups, either U13 or U15, there was two Dieppe teams who were in the final, the provincial final. So congratulations to both the winner and the finalists. It was great for both. And let's not be too greedy either. So on that, I say have a great evening.